Hello, welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Data, presented to you by DQE. And today we are shifting our focus a little bit towards a sector-specific question, retail. And to explore the implications of data for retail, but also looking into the future at what is lying ahead for retailers around the world, we have the pleasure of hosting Steve Collinge. Steve Collinge is one of the foremost experts when it comes to retail. He's been commenting this industry for a number of years now through his Insight Retail Group that provides market intelligence, wonderful insights into the trends that are going on across retail industries. And with him, we're going to be looking at the crystal ball into 2026 and wonder what are the challenges ahead. But first, Steve, thank you very much for being there with us. Would you like to say a few words about yourself? Did I miss anything key to understand who you are?
No, that was a lovely summary, lovely introduction, thank you. So my name's Steve Collinge from Insight Retail Group. I've been in the retail industry now over 30 years, scarily, and my business provides insights, intelligence, ideas on consumers, retail trends, everything really that's happening in the retail market at the moment.
And now, delving into the core of our episode, the challenges of 2026. We need your wisdom on this. And it's a risk of looking into the future and making some predictions. But I think it's something you've been thinking about for a while, identifying some trends that will be, I suppose, at the center of retail strategic considerations. Could you maybe, as a point of departure, outline the trends you have identified?
Yeah, of course I can. It's an interesting time of year, isn't it, when we turn into the new year, although it's February already. But it's time to dust off the crystal ball again. And 2026 is going to be a really pivotal year, I think. When I look back and sort of over the last 20 years and the onset of the internet and how that's impacted on the retail industry, both physical stores, online, how consumers' behaviour has changed. 2026 is going to be a real challenging year in many respects if you work for a retailer. And I've identified a really group of 5 key trends to focus on, key areas to explore. Should we look inside that crystal ball?
Yes, please. Let's indulge. So what is the number one trend you've identified? The first point.
Okay, so this is really about the physical store itself. Many media commentators and journalists always seem to share the same headline, death of the high street. Doesn't matter what country you're in, if you're in the countries where e-com is a higher proportion of business overall, then there's even greater risk, and stores closing leads to this doom-mongering about retail. And it's just frankly not true. Those retailers who are adapting their business models, who are doing things different, who are taking the lead from tech businesses and understanding how to do it better, are really creating the future for themselves. And the number one trend is that stores aren't going away. They are adapting. If the store role is simply to stock products and sell products, well, it needs to be much more than that.
So here, you must expect us to ask you a little bit more. What do you mean? What more can stores do on top of stocking these products and allowing customers to check what products they desire and see for themselves? What more?
Well, if you think pre-internet days, then it was all about location. You would go to the store that was nearest to you for pretty much whatever you wanted to buy. If they didn't have it, you'd go to the next one that was nearest to you. So what has changed now is that anybody can pretty much buy anything from anywhere and get it delivered anywhere. And that takes away the need for that physical role of just being an outlet that stocks product and sells product. You have to now convert to be the first choice for your customers for that product range. If that means you have to deliver it, if that means you have to provide click and collect, or that means you have to provide lockers on the outside of the branch so people can access the products when the store's doors are closed, or that means providing a service, and obviously in home improvement and garden, you've got the products you can sell, but you can sell services to install those products as well.
Repairing maybe also.
Absolutely.
You can invent so many things.
Absolutely. It's don't just stick the product on the shelf and open the doors. Now you have to understand how consumers shop and pivot yourself to be the first choice.
And is there any interesting case that jumps to your mind? I mean, of a company that's managed to negotiate this turn towards a better experience, a better customer experience in the store?
I mean, many are on that journey. And that's what's interesting. I mean, click and collect is not new to anybody. Rapid delivery, kind of outside of the fast food industry, is becoming a little bit more seen in businesses and tested. You're seeing some same-day delivery from Amazon now as well. So everything is getting faster, and everything is getting quicker, and everything is meeting those consumer needs better. And so in the UK, what we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months is the growth of businesses offering convenience options. And one of those is a business called Tradecart that delivers to trade people within an hour.
Wow.
Wherever they are in the UK. So if you're a plumber that had a van, you don't need a van anymore. You don't need to buy stock to put in the van. You get it delivered to the next job that you're going to. And that's a massive change. And not only are they not having the risks of the van and the cost of the stock, but they're saving time. They can now have a sandwich at work rather than drive to the retailer or the merchant to collect the product. They've got more time on their hands, and logic tells you that is the way the market's going to go.
I see. And here, the word that comes to my mind, and I think I've read it in some of your articles, that's convenience, right?
Yeah.
There's the C word of convenience, of making the experience as flawless, seamless as possible for the person who's got a need, a very objective, specific need, and making it seamless. Is convenience the right word?
It is. If you want one word for 2026, it's convenience. And I think where it's changed, I talked about some examples before: lockers, rapid delivery, click and collect. Convenience was before, and even in my own mind, up until back in the last year, convenience was an add-on. Convenience was something that you did,
like a premium
in addition.
Option.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It was next day, or it's now same day. It was an add-on to your core proposition as a retailer. It was an article I think I read back end of last year, but something spiked something in my head, and it said convenience is no longer an option. It's no longer an add-on. Convenience is now the strategy. So if retail strategy before was widest range, best prices, best service, you can't win with a physical store with widest range anymore. And you can't necessarily win with the best prices or the best service. Your strategy has to be convenience. You build everything else you do around convenience.
And I think that's a good segue into the second trend you've identified, which is, because we're talking convenience about, I suppose, the evolving role of the store as a place, as a space. But then there's also the evolution of the expectations, right, of customers. What they want, what they expect from you. So convenience is also relevant in that sense, right?
It is, and it has a different relevance to different generations. So we spend a lot of time looking at this generational split that we see in the home and garden industry, but it happens in every industry. It happens in the fast food industry, it happens in grocery. Everywhere you look, you've got these two generations. You've got the older generation, which of course is my age, where we've had certain expectations built over the years, and rapid delivery for us now, it's like unbelievable. I mean, why would I use Deliveroo when the fast food place is a 10-minute walk away? For me, it's mad. But my kids, they would use Deliveroo they wouldn't even dream of walking down there. So convenience means something different to different generations. As a retailer, you can't keep looking after the older generation who've been your customers for the last 30 years. And that's a fundamental problem, because if you just carry on adding some conveniences, pieces around the outside, you're missing the fact that the younger generations want convenience completely. And if you're not meeting those needs, then they're going to shop elsewhere. They've got no brand loyalty these days. So that convenience bit has really shifted, but it has a different meaning.
Yeah, I see.
For different generations.
So here it's convenience even extending beyond the store, right? It's not just the store as this rolling the red carpet, trumpets in the background, and you feeling the superhero. You're talking about extending this convenience to click and collect, fast delivery programs, right? Or what examples do you have in mind for this younger generation?
It's providing all the options you possibly can so your customers can make that choice. If they still want to get in their car and drive 10 kilometres and park in a car park and walk around a store, That's fine. If that's what they want to do, great, and then provide everything for them. But if you never want to go to a store again, if you see going to a store is a waste of time, and the younger generations tend to be less confident in some of these projects, certainly in home and garden, and therefore they're a bit embarrassed about speaking to staff. They just want to research online, and they want it delivered, or they want to go and collect it, or they want it delivered to a locker which is close to their home. So you just have to provide all those options and let the customer decide. But if you don't give the convenience options, customers will shop elsewhere.
And what I'm hearing is that underlying these two trends towards convenience is, I think, another trend you've thought about, which is related to data, right? Because here what we're talking about is the beginning steps of segmentation, right? Segmenting your customer base and knowing that they have different expectations. But to do that, you need good data, right?
Absolutely.
So could you tell us a little bit more about what I think is your third trend?
Yeah, so it sits under the title of the importance of data. Now, of course, data's always been important for businesses. Retailers have had mountains of data. They've had sales data and consumer data and loyalty card data. They've had plenty of data over the years, often too much to even properly interrogate and use to make commercial decisions. And again, 10, 15 years ago, the most important data was the size of the product to fit on the shelf and the pricing of that. And so it can go through the supply chain, you can go to a DC, you can go out to store and people can take it off the shelf and walk home. And that was important. With the onset of online deliveries and all the convenience things that we've spoken about, and with AI now sitting right in front of the glaze of every single retailer, staring at them saying, what are you doing about AI? If your data's wrong, then you've got massive problems. Because just a very simple example for you. So there's a retailer that I work with. They want to do click and collect lockers. Absolutely, it's a bang on with convenience. It's the right thing to do. Their products lend themselves to a degree for lockers. And it's what size lockers do you put on the outside of the store? Simple question. When you realise that the outer packaging data for many of these products is incorrect and has not been interrogated, and when they started the trial, half the products wouldn't fit in the locker they were supposed to go into, you suddenly realise that you've got problems. That's just one example. It could be the data relating to the content or the imagery or the descriptions, and the product turns up and it gets returned by the customer. Returns are a massive cost in this industry. So just two examples there. If your fundamental data is wrong, then you have got problems at every step down the road, even before AI comes in.
The saying goes, garbage in, garbage out.
I would use stronger words than that sometimes, but yes, let's go for garbage today.
I mean, feel free to go beyond a few.
I'm on my best behaviour today.
Okay, all right. And so the importance of data. And is there... So here we're talking about the foundation of data, right?
Yeah.
Getting it right to begin with, because if the roots are wrong, the branches will not bear fruit, unfortunately. And for a gardening expert like you, that's a real tragedy, I suppose.
I saw what you did there. That was good.
I like that.
You've been practicing that, haven't you?
It flashed
you just came in.
And so, do you see anything else relating to the importance of data?
Yeah, this has always been a bugbear for me, and I'm going to go back to home and garden again, if you don't mind. Because outside of what you're going to spend possibly in on a holiday or a new car, let's say, it's kind of where you're going to spend a big chunk of money. Think of a kitchen. So I could be a customer who's just bought, I could have spent 20,000 euros, $30,000, whatever you want to say, on a brand new kitchen. And I could walk into that retail store that I bought the kitchen from last week. And I could walk in the following Saturday, and nobody would know that I'm their biggest customer that month. Nobody would have a clue. I'd walk through that door and there'd be nobody there to welcome me.
And you're the MVP, the most valuable person, monetary speaking.
And I might be going in to spend another 10,000 on something else, on the tiles and the wallpaper and the paint and the lighting and I don't know, lots of stuff to finish off that project. But they have no idea. There's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing that senses I walk in. What I want is I sense from my phone when I walk in, the manager's in his office and he's thinking, Steve's entered the store. I want staff lining, I want red carpet, line of people clapping as I walk in. When I leave the store, I want them all outside waving goodbye because I spent that much money with that retailer. No, it is a ridiculous, humorous example.
If it happens, I want to be in. I want to buy in.
But the reality is, Nobody knows. I could get the worst possible service in there, and yet I've been the biggest customer. So this mismatch between data or the lack of it, or the lack of data in the right place at the right time, becomes a huge issue. And therefore, I might go and buy the next kitchen from somewhere else because I didn't get people clapping and, fireworks.
Yeah. So there was the opportunity here to convert the try and make the most of a purchase that's already happened. And just by a bad use of data, you're missing the opportunity. Right.
Here's another example. You walk in, let's say you've got a loyalty card, so at least they know through the loyalty card who I am. How many stores do you scan your loyalty card as you walk into the store so people then know you're there? None that I can think of. But if you scanned your card as you walked in on a screen and it instantly recognized, and as a result of that, it said, thank you for buying a kitchen from us. You know what? We're going to give you 10% off anything today. Would I be more loyal? Would I be more likely to go back to that store again? Because A, they knew me. B, they recognised what I've purchased. And C, they're giving me something else. I would never go anywhere else.
That's true. Yeah.
And that technology exists. It's just customer data transferred to a unit in store that recognises you. So when we talk about the foundations of data, whether it's correct product data, pricing data, logistics data, whether it's customer data, retailers have mountains of this stuff, but they're not thinking sufficiently about how do we use this to turn our experience into something which is just amazing.
That's a very, very interesting point. And I think it's something we'll explore in greater depth in our next episode.
Yes.
For now, I want to focus on the fourth trend, which is not completely unrelated. So we talked for now about the physical store becoming, taking on a new role. We talked about changing expectations of customers. Now we just talked about data. What is the fourth trend you have in mind for 2026?
I touched on it before. So really, if you're in a retailer's control room, you're making all the decisions, you really have three levers.
All right.
To work with. You've got price, and you see price being used so often by retailers. And you've got service, whatever that means. It can mean convenience, it can mean service in store, it can mean whatever you want to call it. But price, service, and the third lever is range.
So the diversity of products you offer, right?
Absolutely. Whether it's a curated offer, whether it's 10 million products, whatever it is, those are the three things that you can play with. Outside of that, the only things you can play with really is store locations or a fast website. But really the three things, the core of every retailer, price, range and service. Really, the growth of the internet and e-commerce, it was about providing the widest range. If you've got the biggest stores with the widest range, you'll attract more people, whatever their generational age, whatever they want. You'll always go there because they've got it. And in home and garden industry, again, the challenge is, do they have it? Do they have that product? Well, can I go on a website and find out whether a store down the road here has got a product in it? Most retailers don't give me that information. So the thinking was always range, range, range. The bigger the stores, the more product, the more customers we're going to get.
It's like the limits of the universe are the limits of the store.
Absolutely.
But now the universe goes beyond.
And you hear rubber walls and all that kind of descriptions you hear. But of course, the internet came along, and then you can offer much wider ranges anyway. So the thinking of fill these stores with much wider ranges is great. But when you start, let's say you start with a store with 20,000 products, and you're going to put the best-selling 20,000 products in the store. Of course you are. Then you're going to open a store which has got, and we're going back 20 years, but you open a store that's got 30,000 products in. Those 10,000 extra products you're going to put in there are the 10,000 next best sellers after the 20,000. So they're not the best sellers.
Okay. Yeah.
They're the next phase. And if you've got a store with 50,000, there's another 20,000 of even poorer sellers than the 10,000, which aren't as good as the 20,000. So if you keep opening more and more stores with wider ranges, you're filling them full of products that don't sell, basically. But the retailer has to pay for them. So the retailer has to have the stock investment and the management and everything else. So whereas this was always a major driver, the trend for this year, as I'm seeing, and it really started to appear Q4 last year, conversation with retailers, CEOs, and every time it was, we're taking product out of our store. We're taking 5,000 products out, putting them online only, using our partners to drop ship directly to customers, and we're going to fill our stores with more and more of the best-selling stuff. Because when they're buying all the poorer-selling stuff, they often don't have cash to buy more of the best-selling stuff, and they're running out of stock. So again, logic tells you, stop filling stores with stuff that doesn't sell just because you think you need to win on range.
Focus on the best selling products.
put more stuff. It sounds like the most obvious thing to say, doesn't it? But I still see stores and retailers opening bigger and bigger stores with more and more stuff in there that's going to sell one per store per week in 500 stores. And you think, why are you doing that? It's just, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah, hearing you say it sounds extremely logical. But I can see the retailer where he's coming from, thinking, okay, yeah, at least I've got everything at hand. But within reach, but that's not the most rational decision to make.
Look at the generations again. If half your customers are not coming to store anyway, when you used to fill the stores with 50,000 products, 100% of your customers were coming to store. So you had a bigger customer base to go for. Now half of them aren't coming to store anyway. So you're putting even more product in, which is not selling. And that's leading to even more challenges for the future. So next time you see a retailer advertising they're opening up a massive new store,
okay, I'll be skeptical.
Well, just think, was that a sensible thing to do? Or actually, should it be a city centre store with 5,000 products, but 40,000 click and collected next day? You get round all of that very easily.
And if I hear that he's investing more into diversity of products instead of my red carpet, I'll be even more
crazy.
But
that'll be a store I won't be going to.
And all right, so we've got 4 trends. So we've got a final one to wrap it all up, because we've mentioned convenience, data, and now range. What's the final one? What about people, maybe?
We're going deep into that crystal ball now for this last one, but people are the most expensive cost of any business, certainly any retail business. Certainly any physical retail business. The cost of people is most expensive output and is also increasing dramatically. Country by country, you see the cost of people employing people, recruiting people, and that is a real challenge when people are doing very basic jobs. There's another example I've got here for you where, again, sort of in the trade merchant industry, if you've got merchants delivering products to customers, if they load up in the morning the delivery to get a customer, let's say he's a builder, he's getting a delivery in the afternoon. He knows he's getting sometime between 12 and 4 o'clock. That's what he knows. The lorry's going out there and at 12 o'clock it hasn't arrived. So he makes a call. So he rings up somebody in the branch who then speaks to the transport manager, then speaks to the driver. By the time that's happened, there's been about 6 telephone conversations. And Tesco did some work on this some years ago, and they worked out that almost every conversation costs about £50-60 for a business.
Okay.
So you add all those together and, all those conversations. And then when they find out it's going to be delivered at 2:15 because the driver stopped for some lunch, the driver's got to speak to the transport person who speaks to the manager who then speaks to the customer. How ridiculous. So that's what people have been doing in retail. Problem solving at a very basic level, where there is so much technology now which replaces all of that. So the people piece, and coming back to the trends for 2026, the value of that asset in your business, people, you have to sweat that asset rather than get them doing basic jobs which don't need to be done, that can be replaced by tech and by AI. You move the role of people to loyalty building, to relationships, to customer facing, to that smiling face when you walk into the store, that can I help you today? And that becomes so important. So we've talked about the shift of the role of the store. This one is a shift in the role of people within retail. It's not necessarily less people. It's actually putting people in those roles where you meet customer demands, whether it's people to click and collect or people to make sure the product's available for that rapid delivery driver when they turn up. However you look at it, it's people playing value-added roles within the business, which is critically important.
Yeah, taking a pivotal role in this great transition you describe towards a more pleasant experience all around, right?
Absolutely.
For the people working, moving away from repetitive, redundant, and costly tasks, but also for the customers, trying to have the best experience possible, whatever generation they may belong to.
And whatever they want, whatever they're looking to buy, and again, within lots of industries, it's an irregular purchase. So whether it's a television or a fridge or some wall panels or paint, whatever it is, it's an irregular purchase. We're not experienced in buying these things. We need help and we need support, and therefore it's a retailer's role to provide somebody there, not at the end of a queue of 6 people that you think there's no point queuing up for that, but they're available for you, whether that's via an app, and that can be a chatbot, or whether it's by a real person. But those businesses that reach out and engage and provide a front face for those customers in whatever form it is and are helpful, they're going to win this year and beyond.
Very nice. I think we're getting to the end of this episode, but maybe do you have a few words to conclude about this year of 2026? Does it have a special flavor in your eyes, or?
I've been trying to sort of put a framework to it. You know, we've got these 5 trends, and rather than try and fit them into boxes, I think there's a really important point to make, and that is retailers have so many challenges to deal with. They have so many options. They have so many tech businesses knocking on their door, trying to sell them their stuff, particularly now with AI. And so the choices they make have to be very, very carefully thought through. You know, it's often a lot of investment, board level sign off, this kind of thing. The point I want to make, rather than there are so many challenges here and so many things you could do, is you don't need to do all of them all at once. Many of these technological options for businesses, many of these tech answers can be tested and can be trialed. We're in a new industrial revolution here. You know, we don't suddenly move from A to B. There is a road where businesses need to test these things to see whether they're right. I'd be advocating to any retail business that you, and IKEA are great at this, you start tests and trials across the business, and you know what? You learn from it. And that means that some stuff will fail, and failing is fine. For people to fail in a project, it's fine. We've learned from that. And that's where IKEA are really good. They allow people to make mistakes. But for every 3 that you fail, 3 will win. And I think that's the key message, that from a retailer perspective, there's so much you can do. There are so many challenges. But if you don't start trialing in all these areas I've spoken about, then you're going to miss out in 2026 and beyond.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I'm going to conclude this episode. So that wraps up our episode of today with Steve Collinge. It was a very interesting conversation about the trends that are going to be shaping the retail industry in 2026. A lot of takeaways here. We covered many, many areas, from the profound change of retail towards more convenience, including a change in the way we perceive data, in the way we perceive the role of people. And with a final conclusion from Steve that was very interesting: test and learn. It is, challenging times are ahead for retailers, that's for sure. But the philosophy here is test and learn, trial and error. And we'll see each other very soon for our next episode. Thank you.